Hi, my name is Jacob Roten, and I'm a senior chemistry major here at Radford University. For my topic, I have chosen to go over gene modification or gene editing. The question I came up with were, do the benefits of gene editing outweigh the ethical implications behind this technology? The current controversial biological technology that I'm referring to is CRISPR-Cas9, and it stands for clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. And that just refers to a sequence of base pairs found on the DNA of bacteria that have this feature. And what this technology does, it works by removing, adding, or editing sections of DNA sequences. And before I go into further analysis of this argument, I think it's important to have a simple understanding of how exactly this technology works. It has two key molecules. The first is enzyme, which in this case is Cas9, which acts as a pair of molecular scissors that cuts two strands of DNA at a specific location. And so therefore this bit of DNA can be removed, and it can be left as just the removal, or there can be an addition to the DNA, or it can just be edited and it'll be replaced with the proper sequence. Now how it goes to a certain spot in DNA is the second molecule that's important in this technology, and that's a small pre-designed RNA sequence which acts as a guide for Cas9 and takes it to its complementary site in a DNA sequence, so it can go to a certain gene that it's trying to edit. Now, in theory, because of this, it only binds to only this site instead of binding to multiple sites in the body and having unforeseen effects in the genes. Now, I'd like to point out, after going through this into a little bit of background, this is only the changing of nucleotides. It's not magic. It can be understood pretty simply over just by giving this a little bit of background, and it's just biologically restoring a mutated gene. It's not enhancing anything necessarily. It's just restoring what would have been there and what should have been there in the first place. Now, many people are scared because they do not understand the technology. A lot of people in society that don't have a strong background in science, they have a fear of what they don't understand. And when they hear genetic modification or gene editing, it's a huge red flag. And a good example would be the uproar of GMOs, and how people want to stay away from those because they're bad for you or they're scary. And that's really just not the case for most examples anyway. When we think of grain, for example, that's been genetically modified, or for instance corn. It could be modified to be resistant against certain bacterias. And this has no negative effects in the body, but it increases yield. And farmers have a higher crop production, and there's more food. So I would think that's a positive, and this is a similar case in this with gene editing. It's not something you should be scared of, but something you should be more informed about so you can understand it instead of being worried. Another concern is designer babies. Now in theory, yes, you could create a baby to have certain traits. For instance, with this technology, you could have a baby that is taller than they originally would be, have a different hair color, skin tone, or even a different variable trait that does not exist in humans, for instance, having the eye color purple. But realistically, that's not what researchers are setting out to do. They're setting out to eliminate or alleviate serious or fatal conditions, not to make these perfect babies. So that's not something you should be worried about right now. So society should, maybe in the future, obviously, think about this regulation. But right now, researchers really just want to focus on these diseases. Another issue would be, does it favor the rich? With a lot of diseases, yes, the more money you have, the better treatment you might be available to. However, in the cases of fatal illnesses that could be alleviated or repaired, either in the embryo or as an infant, I believe insurance companies, once this becomes a thing, they will work on it, and there will be options. It won't just be out of pocket, and it won't be just exclusive for those with higher economical standings. Now the problem is, some people against this believe that we are playing God, and that's one of the largest ethical issues behind this. Now I'd like to point out that it's an error in development, and there's mutations in the body. So why should we suffer? Now say we were created a certain way by God. I believe yes, that is true. We were created, and we are given the same basis set. However, sometimes our genes, they're encoded incorrectly, either whether it's in the womb or later in life. So why should we have to suffer when we have the technology and the means now that we could replace those and not make it something better, just make it to what it's supposed to be and have the same chance at life as everyone else has, the same style of living as other people do that don't have the same problems. For instance, what is the difference in correcting a genetic error and fixing a congenital heart disease? Now, while it is important to consider the ethics behind the technology, it's unreasonable to say genetic modification should be made illegal. Again, I think it's important to understand the implications of this technology, that it's not meant for evil by any means. It's really just to give human race the same opportunities as those that are healthy. Why should we suffer with disabilities when we have the means to improve these mutated genes? And currently, this is the greatest tool available for correcting life-threatening diseases, whether somatic or inheritable. And with somatic diseases, that's just something that's not passed down generations. Inheritable, that's just affecting the germline, genes that will be passed down to generations, which is another scare for people. Like, well, if you change inheritable genes, if that's passed down, how will that affect my offspring? Well, a good example would be Huntington's disease. If that's fixed in one germline, and what's passed down is the correct genes, this disease will not be present in the offspring. So that's a positive case in my opinion. Now, I believe society should realize that most researchers want to quickly discover a way to eliminate serious or fatal conditions. But the more hoops they have to jump through and the longer it takes for this research to jumpstart, especially embryonic research, the less resources financially are available right now until there's less controversy whether or not embryonic research should be made available in genetic editing, then there won't be much progress made. The takeaway from this, I believe the appropriate action would be to just think critically through scientific advancements, whether it's gene editing or future technologies that come up. As a society, it's our responsibility to understand these topics before giving a biased or uneducated response to it. And while I do believe genetic editing should be given more support, it should also be highly regulated when it comes to non-threatening situations, so designer babies aren't an issue. This sticks to life-threatening diseases. And with this, I believe science has made a huge advancement, and we should give it the support. And thank you for your time.